Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hey, welcome to be my guest. This is Jan Lewis. We have today coming in from Coventry, Rhode Island, D.R. Perry. And D.R. writes pretty unusual books. Welcome, D.R.
Hello.
At least she didn't have to come in the rain today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a real soaker out there. What'd you say? It took you an hour and 15 minutes to get here?
Thereabouts. Mm-hmm.
I forgot how far away a drive Coventry is. I used to live in Providence. Relatives lived in East Greenwich and Warwick. But I forgot how far Coventry really is. Really, was it a good drive?
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
good on the highway?
I'm all right.
Ugh.
I'd really rather be on the highway than in the back roads in Rhode Island because there are potholes everywhere. So you sort of, the police might be behind you and they might think, is that woman drunk or is it the potholes?
Yeah, definitely. Well, D.R. has written 2 books, and she's going to, a lot of us who normally are not in the supernatural vigilante type of thing, she's going to explain to us about her books. And your real name is Diane, and so I'll probably call her Diane, but she goes
I'm
by...
sorry, it's Diana.
Diana, and she goes by D.R. Perry. And these books, you were saying, Body Count and Be Counted. This is the Supernatural Vigilante Society. And you would say age group 16 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Plus. Now, help people like myself who aren't used to reading this, which is really, I think, really not only colorful, but certainly definitely different. What is a Vigilante Society?
Well, this series is about a nice Italian boy from Cranston, Rhode Island. His name is Valentino. He's a police officer. He gets passed up for promotion to detective, and he decides to be a PI. He gets his license. He's excited. He goes out to celebrate, and he meets a woman, and she turns him into a vampire.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that kind of derails his plans. So he decides he's still going to use that PI license, and this time he's going to try to help people with supernatural crimes or issues that they're having instead of just regular stuff.
What got you interested in this?
In
this writing this type of genre of book?
Science fiction and fantasy is very old. It's not really anything new. There's obviously old classics like The Lord of the Rings. Before that, Lord Dunsany was writing about fairy. So it's really not... And Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. So they've been around for centuries. Books like this have been around for centuries.
Were you really very young when you got interested in this type of the supernatural?
I've always I can't remember not being interested in fantasy or anything that isn't. I've always loved dragons and unicorns and other things like that. So, yeah.
That's cool. I don't know. I didn't ever get into it, but it's great to be able to think outside the box and see. I was reading the back of the page, Providence Paranormal College.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
That is a series. It's complete, and it's 10 books, and it's told from the point of view of college students at their supernatural college, and they're solving a mystery. Somebody's trying to get the school shut down. So each book is from the point of view of 2 different characters each time, and it's their piece of the puzzle about who's trying to get the school shut down, why, and what are they going to do about it. It's one of those, so in urban fantasy and paranormal, they have 2 kinds of worlds. So there's open world and closed world, and Providence Paranormal is an open world, so the rest of the people in the world know about supernatural stuff. They found out in the 90s in that series. Mm-hmm. So there have been all sorts of government regulations on things like magical goods or services. People have to have licenses to do psychic readings now, and they have to really be psychic.
Do?
Yes.
When did this happen?
In the 90s, not in the real world.
Oh, I was going to say, because you go to a psychic.
I'm talking about in my series.
You can go to a psychic into anybody,
Right.
Yeah,
well, because of the fact that in the 1990s, in the Providence Paranormal College world that I wrote,
mm-hmm.
They discovered that, yes, there are in fact dragons they walk among us looking like regular people until they get really angry and they turn into big scaly beasts. And there are people who use magic, there are werewolves, there are vampires, there are ghosts, and there are psychic mediums who can talk to them. There are precognitive psychics. There's all kinds of different abilities in Providence Paranormal College universe, and because they were discovered, the first knee-jerk reaction was, oh no, get rid of them. So there was some issue there, but a lot of older supernatural creatures like the dragons and the vampires they'd been around for a long time and they knew mortal society, so they said, no, let's make laws. So the ones with the money and power got to try to mitigate the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, there's a werewolf down the street, run them out of town. Instead, they said, okay, no, werewolves are look, this werewolf family, they've been firefighters, for generations. They've been saving your lives. No, regulate it. Yeah. Make them go to school so that their abilities can integrate well with the mortal world. So everybody's got to be registered. I have one vampire, and he's got a psychic ability, and his name is Henry. He can manipulate memories. He can put them into objects and then sort of use psychometry to get memories out of objects. So he helps people sometimes by making charms for them or by helping retrieve a memory or, but he needs a license for this. Yeah. So he's in school. He's at the college.
That's what that college is all about.
Yeah, so he's at the college.
And there's a book, too,
right.
volume 2 on it.
Oh, no.
No, it says volume.
No. Well, because I have 2 bundles, 5 books each. So that volume 1 and volume 2, there's 5 books in volume 1 and there's 5 books in volume 2. That series is completed. There are 10 books total in the series.
How many books total of all books have you read?
Okay, so I have 10 of those. I have these 2. Mm-hmm. I have 2 more in a different series that takes place in 1929. And I have a science fiction one about a single mom and her ordeal of being trapped in a video game. And then, I have the 3rd book in this series.
What's A Change in Crime? What was that?
That's one of the ones in 1929.
That's a 29.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, there's that and Wiser Guys. They're both, they're about the mafia during Prohibition. Yeah. And I thought to myself, oh, what if there were monsters and magic? And the mafia discovered this. And they knew Prohibition was ending, so what would they do with this?
That's an interesting take on it.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking with D.R. Perry, Diane, and she is from Cranston? No, I keep wanting to say she's from Cranston.
And I'm Diana.
Diana, and we're going to get it. Well, I'm so interested in hearing what this is all. Keep getting. And all right, so now we have The Longest Night Watch. What's that?
That's a charity anthology. Mm-hmm. There are 2 volumes currently out now, and the 3rd volume is due sometime soon. The proceeds go to the Alzheimer's Association, and a group of us that are in a writers group online decided to put together some anthologies with poetry, short stories, and some essays about Alzheimer's disease. Mm-hmm. And the stories are usually speculative fiction. We started this up after Terry Pratchett passed away, and as you know, he's a very well-known fantasy writer who had Alzheimer's disease. And through the last couple of years in his career, he was still getting work out. It was usually things that he'd already drafted, and he had assistants. It was difficult for him, and we thought we'd do that because many of us have had family members with Alzheimer's. My grandmother had Alzheimer's before she passed away, and so did almost everybody else who contributed to the anthology. So
we're talking with D.R. Perry, and anyway, her books are called Be Counted, Supernatural Vigilante Society, and Body Count. Supernatural Vigilante Society. One of them is the book 1. So remind them which one is book 1.
Be Counted is book 1.
Okay, and then the other one. Who did the covers on this?
That's my husband.
Oh, he does. Okay, he's the one. Because a lot of authors will enlist a friend or a family member, or they'll do it themselves. You did this yourself, right? You self-published.
Mm-hmm.
Where have you been appearing? Tell us about that.
I have been at Dragon Con this past year. I went to Atlanta. Dragon Con is sort of like a Comic-Con, but also it's beyond that because it has programming that goes through the night. Up here, I think the closest thing you'd get to that is Aresia. that's in Boston. So they'll show movies overnight and other events like that. They'll have parties. But Dragon Con goes for 5 days. Arisia, I believe, only goes for 3. And Dragon Con's also much larger. It takes place on Labor Day weekend, and it's it's just a larger number of people. They sort of take over a section of downtown Atlanta, and it was one of the most interesting experiences I've had, and exciting as well, because I met a lot of people who they felt like my people. So it was exciting to go.
And you told me that you had sat next to somebody that you were really thrilled to be next to.
Yes. Yeah. So I was on a panel with Jody Lynn Nye, and I've read her work, and she wrote for the Myth series by Robert Asprin, and he was a big influence on my writing, and I read him when I was a wee little kid, and I loved the Myth series. It's about it's a fantasy, and it's about a wizard. He's a young teenage wizard apprentice, and his master summons a demon, and it's really a guy from another dimension who's green and scaly. But of course our hero Skeeve doesn't know this, and he's intimidated and frightened, and then his master has a heart attack, and the demon is stuck in this backwater dimension with no powers. So it's after that, it's sort of a buddy series where it's
what about The Longest Night Watch? What is that? The Longest Night Watch and Stardust Always?
You always already asked me about The Longest Night Watch.
Okay, but the Stardust?
Stardust Always is another charity anthology, and that one is for St. Jude's Research, and we did that one in honor of David Bowie and Alan Rickman.
David Bowie. Gosh, a lot of people I know are very, very upset. WBZ's, one of their announcers, was talking about that. He really loved Bowie. You know, people either really seemed to really like him or they didn't care, you know? You did, right? You liked him. Okay, Super Vigilante. We've got this right here. The Supernatural Vigilante Society. Challenge of Vercon. What's that?
That's the one with the video games.
That's got the games.
Yeah. So this one's science fiction, and I made my future world utopian, and it's still Warwick, Rhode Island. Everything's in Rhode Island in my work, pretty much. Rhode Island comes in somewhere. So in Challenge of Vercon books, the virtual world is called Vercon, and that's why I call it that. But Clerical Error is the title of the book that, the first one I wrote, and that's out now. And the heroine is Daria. She is a scientist, and she's working on a biofarm for deep space vessels. And so she's almost done. She's got her prototype all set. She's going to go make a presentation about it. It's Earth Explorers is the name of the space program that she's working for. So she's going to go do that after the weekend, and her children are out recruiting for their championship video game team that they've got going. She used to play, but she doesn't anymore, not since her husband passed away. And she is cleaning out their game room. She sits down to take a rest and ends up in the video game again. At level 1, in a character she didn't really make, and she meets a couple of interesting characters who are also playing the game, and they have to play, and in order to get out, they're set up to do 3 different encounters in the game, and so she's got to get level past all 3 of them. So she needs to beat all 3 in order to log out, so she can, and hopefully do it on time, so she can go make her presentation.
But are you into video games? Are you into that yourself?
Yes, I used to play, and then I had a daughter.
You have a daughter?
So I didn't have
you
any
look
time
like a
to
kid.
I'm not. I'm in my 40s.
What?
Yep.
I thought you were my son's age. And
I'm 44.
I thought you were 25.
No, I'm 44.
You look fantastic.
Well, thank you.
You really do. I thought you were kids. So how old is your daughter now?
She's 5.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
and
good.
she just started kindergarten. She's really excited.
Yes,
Yeah,
right?
she loves it.
I loved it when my son went to school. It's like, finally. What's he going to look at my face all day? Get out there with the other kids.
I miss her, but she's very extroverted.
Oh,
so,
that's good. Yeah.
She's very happy to be at school, and I miss her. I'm at home going, oh.
He was happy there, and I was happy that he was happy there. I didn't have any problem getting him on the bus that day, except he stopped. He didn't cry. He didn't put up a fuss. He just froze. I said, let's go. And I got him up, and that was it. Now, let's see, we got that. Poetry collections. Are you into that too? Poetry.
Well, I do have poetry. I took a long break from writing anything long form, and the one thing I did continue to write was poetry. So I just have a lot of poems, sort of a backlog of poems from decades of my life, and I had brought them to some open mics. And I had some people say, "Do you have a chapbook? Don't you have a collection? You always seem to read something different every time. Are you writing these right now, or these, because they don't seem like drafts?" And I said, "No, these are poems from 20 years ago." And they said, "How many do you have?" So I went home and I counted them, and I realized I can make 4 chapbooks.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. I have the first ones out. It's much more okay. So I like to write when I'm writing a book. I like to write something lighthearted, or that there's always some kind of hope. A Change in Crime and Wiser Guys, they're the darkest of my works, and people still crack a joke once in a while. But, I have Supernatural Vigilante Society. It's campy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of puns. There's a lot of situational comedy. I don't have that going on in A Change in Crime. But there's still hope. The characters are hopeful. Some of my poetry is darker. Sometimes I was writing in a place where I really just kind of wasn't sure what was coming next. So, and it was an outlet. Yeah. So, that's not something I really. It's just there, so I figured I'd put it out there.
So, Be Counted and Body Count, where can the viewers get your books?
They're on Amazon, and bookstores can order them through Ingram. So I've got both of those books, also the Providence Paranormal College series, and A Change in Crime and Wiser Guys. You can get them pretty much anywhere. You can walk into Barnes & Noble and ask them to order it for you.
And they will, yeah.
Yep.
How about Tatnuck? Do you know Tatnuck up in Westboro?
No.
You'd love that bookstore. A lot of authors present there. It's very, very, very popular. About 8 minutes up the road from here. What's coming next? I mean, you're so prolific with these books. You must have something coming out very soon.
Yep, the third book in this series.
Be 3. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have 5 books in that series, and I have 2 more books left after A Change in Crime and Wiser Guys. There's the third book in that series is called Godfather's Keeper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that one, I'm not sure when that's coming. It's probably coming in the winter.
Yeah.
I have another Vercon book. It's called Tiny Tank. It's about at the end of Clerical Error, Daria starts dating a fellow who's got a teenage daughter, and Tiny Tank is her story about her first time trying to log into the game, and what she ends up playing.
I like the way you put different slants on the different writing that you have. It's really a good thing. Are you going to keep this great outside the box and doing different varieties of books? You're going to keep doing that?
I have too many ideas.
I can notice you've got a lot. Do you write, how many books at once are you writing, 2 or 3? Because I can relate.
It depends.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like right now, Supernatural Vigilantes, I'm writing all the rest of the books kind of at the same time.
You got 3 more to go, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, because I'm revising book 3. It's drafted.
Okay.
But book 4 and 5, I'm working on drafting. And with all of the 1929 books, I send them to my friend Jared, who is a master's degree candidate in early 20th century history. Yeah. So I always send them to him, and I ask him, hey, is there anything? He caught a Zippo. I had a Zippo that didn't exist yet in 1929, and he caught it. He helped me figure out what kind of flashlight one of my characters had, a few other things like that.
That's good you had that friend on board to help you out like that. A lot of authors, they'll have somebody edit it for them. And when I'm reading it, I'll catch it. And I'll say, you said you are you paying your editor? Because obviously they didn't catch it. You're so lucky.
Well, they don't catch everything, and Jared doesn't edit. He looks for historical inconsistencies.
Yeah, but I'm sure as he reads it, he's smart enough to pick out, like, oops, that's either misspelled or there was a letter missing, that type of thing. I know a lot of people who do editing, they just, they look for anything and everything. I don't see anything in your book, actually, that would need corrected whatsoever.
I you know what's funny is I notice them sometimes. I'll have it go to an editor and a proofreader, and then I'll go over it, and I'll just use a program to go over it myself and help me. Another thing that I started doing was text to speech, so the computer will read it back to me.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
But that doesn't always catch punctuation errors. But if it's the wrong word, like if I put they instead of the, I added an extra y by accident at the end, then I'll catch that because it'll read they, and I'll say, oh no, that's supposed to be the. So I'll pause and I'll change it. But I still don't catch everything. So the other thing is, I was reading a Stephen King book, and that's from a publishing house. And they have a team of editors that go over his work.
I caught one.
And sometimes you do catch, there are typos. It just happens.
I know it.
Because human beings are editing.
Where
That's
do you
what
get
happens.
the time with a 5-year-old to write all these great books? Where do you find the time?
I don't sleep. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I would believe.
I write when she's asleep. So the 2 years she was in preschool, I got up at 4:30 in the morning, and I wrote until she woke up. Fortunately for me, she was a night owl at that stage, so she would sleep relatively late for a child of that age of 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So she would wake up at 7:30.
Oh.
I have friends with children her age, and they wake up at 5.
Yeah, I know.
But because she slept that late, I was able to continue writing for most of that time.
Well, she's in kindergarten now, right? So you have time, during that time.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's great. Now, are you also a night owl where you can actually pick it up when she's gone to bed and write?
It depends on what it is I'm doing with that manuscript. If I'm kind of tired, I'm better off drafting. It's not a good time for me to revise or edit or go over proofreading notes or any of that. So I do those in the morning or the middle of the day. When over the summer, she wasn't in any camp or anything like that.
Yeah.
That was challenging.
Yeah.
I really didn't get anything out over the summer.
Yeah.
I very slowly
Do you have
worked.
a friend who could, I know I started a babysitting co-op back when my son was little, and that was precisely for the purpose that the mother could get some things done, and we would exchange for no money. I'd say, go right down the list. Can you watch, Wally, while I go to the doctor, or this and that? It's a great idea.
No, it really didn't. It doesn't work out that way.
It works out for us. It was terrific.
Well, that's good. I'm a very rare duck in my demographic in my area because everyone's working. They can't watch her.
Yeah, that's a shame because it really worked. The few people that didn't work, they maybe worked the night shift or whatever like that. And then I was self-employed and everything, so I could take someone. Sure, if I can, I will take them. And it helped a lot because I'm an entrepreneur, as you are. Now, with all these books coming, where are you appearing? Are you coming here to Massachusetts at all, going to libraries or anything like that, getting the word out about your books?
I have, for the rest of this year, I'm actually going to Canada.
Good.
I'm going to London.
Yeah.
Not with the bridge. No. I'm going, because it's Canada, London, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half south of Toronto, and 2 hours west of Niagara Falls. So that's where I'm going to be, not this weekend, but next weekend. And then I have Rhode Island Comic Con, and then I have the ARIA Authors Expo. So that's my November, my December. As far as Massachusetts goes, I've been trying to look into going to Boscombe. And there's no form, although I have to email them. So I'm trying to look for things to go to in Massachusetts. Once I did the Jewelry City Steampunk Festival, but this year I have a conflict, so I won't be able to make it to that show.
Big now, that steampunk. That's really getting popular.
But that one's in Attleboro. It's a good one to go to.
There's one that I bet you would love. Every July up in Danversport, Massachusetts, there's a big yacht club, huge, with a ballroom. And authors from all different genres are in this huge ballroom. And I've been up there many times. Not only is it gorgeous, but it's a great place to meet other authors.
Unfortunately,
too.
it's a Wednesday.
So that's out for you, right?
I can't do it.
Why not?
Because my daughter.
Kat, sometimes they take a child with them. It's okay.
She is not at a maturity level to attend that sort of
My
event.
son, I used to bring him. I don't know, maybe because I started him at 2 years old. I can see where you might find that trip, but it's a shame. I think you'd love it there.
She's sort of a jock,
Yeah.
and she's very active,
Mhm.
and she won't really appreciate being in a. It's not no,
Yeah.
it's not something that I can do.
Yeah, I know that it's so beautiful up there. So many authors. Oh, I love it. Now, again, how can people get a hold of your book, DR?
That is on Amazon. All of them are, and you can order them through bookstores.
It's great.
So you can get paperbacks, you can get ebooks.
Yeah. And you can come downstairs to the Up to Town Library, see it, go over to the author's wall, ask Matt about it, whatever. This is great. I'm glad. This is from 16 years old, basically, as DR says, to older. And I know a lot of the millennials, this guy right here in the story.
Mm-hmm.
My own son is a millennial, and I noticed that that his girlfriend was very much into, what does she read? Fantasies, fairies, monsters, dragons, castles, things
Mhm.
like that, and she still loves it. It's a whole different world than what I usually read, but that's terrific, though. The more we need, the more we can get from the different authors for all different things,
Mhm.
right? Thanks so much for being with us, DR.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you next time and be my guest.